Hello, my name is Joseph Downey, and for Major Assignment 3, my project is Revising Multicultural Perspectives. This aligns with my essential question, which was how can multicultural literature in the upper elementary classroom raise awareness of current misrepresentations of non-dominant cultural views, practices, and lifestyles? For my text set, I selected 3 texts: Words in the Dust, published in 2011, which is historical fiction; Inside Out and Back Again, which was also published in 2011 and is historical fiction as well; and Seed Folks, which was published in 1997 and is an example of realistic fiction. Words in the Dust is a text about a girl that is in Afghanistan post-Taliban rule. She is teased in her community and she receives a lot of discrimination. In this story, Zulika, she befriends an American soldier and a friend of her mother who is a tutor to her who helps with her education. Some of the themes that are present are finding strength through family and those around you. Pride and respect for religion and culture are also important, and this also aligns with what we learned this semester with Middle Eastern literature. Inside Out and Back Again. Ha is a 10-year-old girl who flees Vietnam, and this is during the Vietnam War in 1975. Upon arriving in America, Ha and her family come to Alabama. Because of cultural barriers and racial views, Ha has a very hard time adjusting to American culture. Some of the important themes in this text are keeping traditions, gender roles, and language and communication barriers. And in regards to Asian American literature, traditions are a big part of their literature. Seed Folks is a text I selected because it has many different perspectives. The story starts out with Kim, a young Vietnamese girl, who plants lima beans in a vacant lot in order to honor her father, who is also big with planting. Throughout the story, we see 13 different perspectives, each character from a different cultural background. Through the story, many of the characters often think of each other with stereotypical ideas, but as the community comes together, they begin to debunk their stereotypical views and learn how to live together as a community. Some of the major themes in this story are community, cultural understanding, and race. For these themed texts, I chose them because the protagonists in each of the texts are victims of some type of stereotypical views or situations. Their cultures are depicted in ways that students, as readers, could necessarily see them and believe these stereotypes. Readers will be able to identify how perspectives can change by developing an understanding of one another's culture. The goals of the instruction are, through the application of these 3 texts, I will provide students with an opportunity to learn about diverse cultures, customs, traditions, values, and beliefs. Through these 3 texts, I believe I'm presenting them with 3 authentic texts that portray different cultures in a positive way. Through instruction, students will identify how common stereotypes can negatively influence a person's perspective of other people's experience or cultures. Hopefully by the end of this experience through this text set, students will be able to revise their own thinking in regards to different cultures. And my third point for this goal, or my third goal, is by examining the text critically, the students will appreciate and respect diverse cultures and dispel any prejudices, biases, and stereotypes, which again, hopefully by the end of this text set, they'll be able to revise their own thinking and redefine their own definition for multicultural. Okay. The age appropriateness, in context, I would use this most likely in a 5th grade class, upper elementary, even early middle school. This text set could probably be used. The culture of the classroom would definitely have to be heterogeneous and a diverse class. I think all 3 texts would help engage readers, whether they're male, female, or from different cultures or backgrounds. And the timeline for implementing this text set would most likely be about 6 weeks. The 2 novels, Words in the Dust and Inside Out and Back Again, are a little bit lengthy for read-alouds, which might take about maybe 1 to 2 weeks per novel. And Seed Folks would most likely be able to be read in a few days. But with the activities that I have planned, I would like to spend more time really focusing on the text. Okay. For Words in the Dust, I have some before, during, and after activities. To begin, I would use a KWL chart where students can, ask the question or answer the question, what do you know about people, history, cultures, and countries of the Middle East? I think this would help to probe their thinking of what they've seen, maybe in their own daily lives with the news and media, and then we could really compare with what's really going on in the Middle East in regards to culture and the history and people. Group discussions throughout the text. So, how is the life of an American girl similar to Zulika's? How is it different? This would give people in our classroom a chance to really reflect on what they know and their own experiences, and then use textual evidence. And then an after reading activity I could use is a newspaper article or some type of reflective writing. An example of this would be if they wrote, a newspaper article about how women are treated in the Middle East, or how education is not always freely given to women. For Inside Out and Back Again, I really want to focus on traditions before we started the novel because this is really big in the text. A lot of the people in the story that are Vietnamese have to give up some of the traditions that they had back home. So what I would have students do is think about traditions that we have in America, and then maybe research some of the traditions in southern Vietnam. So that way they could get a sense of the differences or similarities that we share. During this text, I would encourage students to keep a journal. This text is written in short poems, and there's a lot of emotion and a lot of imagery, and it's really amazing the way that this author writes this story. So keeping a journal throughout this just to see students reflect back on their learning, I think would be very helpful. And afterwards, a cultural collage where students could collect and arrange photographs that they think illustrate a critical part of the story. I think this would help them maybe interpret the story a little bit better and more creatively than just writing an essay, because they could explain in their own way how the story made them feel. Okay, so 3 activities I would choose for seed folks. The first is for students to think about their own neighborhood diversity in a think, pair, share, where they can think about the community that they live in. During the reading, I would have students keep a character chart. So each character that's introduced, they can discuss how this culture is described from the person's perspective, how their own culture is portrayed, and then how that character's thinking has been revised throughout the text. And at the end, I think a cool idea would be, because there's so many characters, is give each student or a pair of students a character and then have them go back through the text and use information from the text to create some type of trading card. Students could present these, they could trade them with their classmates just to get a better understanding and a perspective on how their classmates interpreted the story. The 3 novels that I chose definitely have interdisciplinary connections. In regards to geography, the text Sea Folks, which is fictional, could be used for some research. So students could identify the street, Gibb Street, and see if it could actually exist in Cleveland, Ohio. Students would be able to research demographics of areas in Cleveland where Gibb Street could have existed. This would give students to really look at the demographics and the statistics of the diversity in Cleveland, Ohio, and then try to find or identify an area that could have a population such as introduced in Sea Folks. For math, students could research the number of Vietnamese families that migrated to the United States during the Vietnam War. Then create a chart with the highest populated areas of Vietnamese migrants to compare with Inside Out and Back Again. And again, I think this would give students a really good perspective of how many people did come from Vietnam at this time. Were more populated areas, were people from Vietnam more accepted, as opposed to the area in Alabama where Ha and her family went. In regards to science, again with Seed Folks, with the amount of vegetation and plants that are presented in the text from each culture, students could identify if what was grown is associated with each culture in real life, and if the plants could realistically survive in Ohio's climate. I think this would allow them to put some hypothesis behind the reading. For social studies, students can research the events in Afghanistan leading up to the setting of Words in the Dust. This is post-Taliban rule, so students could create some type of timeline and see what events in the story coincide with their timeline. As a result of creating this text set, I developed lessons that I'll promote positive learning experiences of different cultures. Students in my classes will be able to revise their own thinking and redefine their original views of people and cultures different from their own. This text set really gave me a chance to reflect on what I have in my annotated bibliography and what texts I could pair together to make an effective text set. What I liked most about creating this text set was developing the activities to use for instruction. I believe I incorporated a multitude of activities that incorporate different learning styles as well as allow students the chance to view these texts critically. I think by presenting 3 different texts with multiple cultures, students can critically look at their own thinking of these cultures and then come up with some type of revision that sees all cultures in a positive way. The most challenging part about the selection of texts was that there were so many stories that I wanted to put into this set, and for the purpose of this grade level and amount of time, I think these 3 really fit the best. But I definitely think I could have incorporated a few more, depending on the amount of time I wanted to focus. And in the future, I would definitely use this text set as a resource, as well as continue to develop other text sets. As a resource, I could definitely use this with my colleagues. I could pass this on to other reading interventionists. I could focus on doing a PLC where I present authentic multicultural literature, or even add a text set to our summer reading program. Overall, this was a positive experience, and I'm glad I was able to share this with you. Thank you.